Good evening, everyone. This is the Manasquehney School District Board meeting on Monday, September 12th, 2022, and the time is, I believe, just exactly 6:30. 6:31. And so I'm calling this meeting to order. I don't think there are any introductions that need to be made. So we will, does anybody have any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay. Public sorry, approval of minutes. Did everybody have a chance to look through the minutes from the last two meetings? I will take a motion to approve the minutes from August 8th and also September 6th.
So moved.
Second.
Does anybody have any comments or questions about the minutes? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote on this. Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Davis, what about you?
Aye.
Rebecca, how about you?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So the minutes have been approved unanimously.
Did you ask Amy or me?
I'm sorry, Nancy,
Aye. I said aye for Amy.
I wrote your name down. I'm sorry. I apologize. And I did ask Amy, she's sitting here next to me, and she said aye. Christine, would you mind putting since we can only see 9 of the 10 people on, would you mind showing who's on here?
Let's see if I can adjust. Something with my screen. I need to do it on the owl, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Change the layout. Okay, I should see everybody. So we have one member of the public here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Our next item is public participation. We have changed our agenda to reflect the change in public participation, which is to say that the agenda now has directions at the bottom on how to contact our board. And the comments which are sent to the board may or may not be publicly read out. It's sort of at the board's discretion, but the email addresses are all listed there. Does anybody have any public comments or announcements?
I do. I'm sorry. You meant like public or?
No,
board?
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, upon getting out of my car, Larry Dower, he saw me and he called me into the building and he showed me an amazing, I would say, dining hall. It's more like a cafe. It's gorgeous.
Oh.
And I recommend anyone and everyone after this meeting to just kind of meander and take a look. It really is. It's gorgeous.
It was finished at 5,
Just before this meeting.
5:30 this evening. Looks amazing.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah.
Amy, I gotta show you something.
I know the fanciest eating establishment in town.
Yeah.
There's a picture of the
You'll
board.
see a picture, yeah.
Okay. But it's very exciting. And that was through the capital reserves.
Huh? I heard a blip from someone.
Bill asked if there are changes or additions, or if we skip that.
Bill, I already called out for changes or additions. Do you have a change or addition that you'd like to make?
Yes, I must have emotionally phased out there or something. Um, I I thought we were going to, or am I missing it on the agenda? I discussed the start of the school day.
I'm sorry. It's not on the agenda, but we can add it under D.
Well, my suggestion may be to add it to the preliminary budget discussion because it may actually coincide with that.
I think we talked about it at the SU meeting, Bill.
No, we talking about it during
Talk about-
this meeting.
Okay.
And so I did bring it up at the SU meeting, and I did,
Yeah, okay.
and then I asked Elizabeth after I mean I did put my spiel out there. I asked Elizabeth if this would be more appropriate during the Montescotney, and she agreed with me. So
I apologize, Bill. That is totally my fault.
now
I completely forgot.
no need to apologize.
So we'll put it, we can add it onto the preliminary budget discussion. Okay. Does anybody else have an announcement that they would like to make or public participation of some sort? Okay, hearing none. Actually, Kate, would you mind giving us, since we're not going to meet again until after homecoming, would you mind giving us the rundown of homecoming days?
Yeah, sure. It's on our slideshow. So do you want to do
Okay.
the report, or do you want to how do you want to do this? I'm happy to help.
Well, no, that's fine. You could save it for the slideshow. Absolutely fine. Okay. Let's go to the administrative report.
Do you want me to share?
Sure.
Yep, okay. Is that easier?
Sure. I will kick off with a few notes from Jen Aldrich, who wasn't able to be here tonight. She did a recording of her talking over the slides, which we're not able to access at the moment, so I'll do my level best. And Jennifer may have to correct the record for things that I don't say quite correctly, but anyways, here we go. I think it's been a great kickoff at ABS. There are some pictures up on the first slide that she has there of some of the first days and some of the main themes that she has noted there. She has talked a lot about full school morning meetings, some of which are starting to be student led, which is really exciting, in line with our Leader in Me initiative. This is the work that certainly all schools are doing right now of building community in classrooms, building learning community, and certainly that has begun at ABS. Some new exciting things or celebrations that she has noted here are hot food. That's always, we all always like that. That's great. Outdoor fun, starting to get into those outdoor spaces and set norms and expectations around their use as a learning environment, which is really exciting. Celebrating new friends, new classmates, and certainly new staff to the ABS building, which is super great. No school year start is without some challenges. So there have been some notes about after-school care and some problem solving there, certainly after-school care when it comes to transportation. I think I can touch on that in just a second. And then keeping food hot, as I believe it's made here and then brought over. So I think they're problem solving around that as well. But I think the liftoff has been really, really great there. And do a lot of place-based education and building community, which is exciting. The after-school needs, I'll try to dig in a little bit here, then perhaps Jen can follow up with their specific questions and may not have the answers to these parts. I know that she has done some work to gather some data on the needs and has provided a survey. I think she has some of the initial data there in the orange box on responses. And they're looking to problem solve around that. There are a couple notes here about where Jen and the team are in process and problem solving with the afternoons, working with potential staff members and potential models, working with DCF on the licensure pieces, and what the process will need to look like depending on where they are. Working with Jessica Brody, Select Board, which is where I believe Jennifer is tonight. And then reaching out to the BTG program housed here at Windsor and other possibilities. Community.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I don't know if you can answer it.
I may not be able to, but I'll try.
What does she mean by, do you know what she means by reaching out to Bridging the Gap to,
Yeah.
but potential of more? Have there been families turned away from BTG?
Yes,
There have.
because we're licensed here for a certain number and we reached our max. So I don't think they were able to accommodate all the ABS needs. I think I'm correct on that. Yeah.
I think it's a staffing issue. I think we couldn't staff it for enough people, and like they've tried, and I think they're still trying. But I'm not positive, but I think that was it.
Next steps, Jennifer has in green there, engaging with the town and the rec department. I believe some of that she may be doing now, getting clarity on what's still needed for licensure from last year. It sounds like some of that work was already in the works. And then collaborating with the team in place there to come up with some creative solutions for that issue.
Are you fully apprised of the licensing problem?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe, because my understanding last year was from David that he was working with Emily, who ran the Adventure Club last year, to get it licensed. Do you know what happened?
So I think, and Katie can chime in, the application may have been started, but it's pretty intense when you are licensing a new facility. And program. So there's two parts to it, the actual physical space and the program. So I think one option Jen was exploring was, could BTG be the parent and have a satellite office out at ABS? It would be quicker to license that way, the space and not the program, because the program is already licensed. BTG is already licensed. You can chime in, because that's about all I know.
That pretty much sums up. So the difference between ETG already meets all the licensure requirements and staffing, training, all of those pieces, and what kind of program they run, supervision, and everything else. So when you're starting from scratch, you're trying to get someone to license the people, the program, the approaches, all of that, the licensure, and then the physical space. So if you already have an established early childhood program that already has an after-school program and they're running a satellite, they would just need to add that satellite in, their program's already licensed, and then you would just have to get the physical plant licensure done, which is a lot easier than that part of, is the space accessible and all the rest of it for after school programs. So that's why
You'd
you're
still
looking at the
need,
process. There's a
Yeah.
large process for our after school.
and you still need staff. And then, and when we met with BTG in the spring, when Heartland lost their after-school program, it has to balance fiscally, like there have to be enough children in the program to make it work as well. So it's just, so I think Jen was collecting data to figure out how many kids would actually use the program, to see if it would be fiscally sound as well.
Because we've been here several times before asking BTG if they would let an after-school program, Adventure Club specifically,
Yeah.
be under their wing, and they've said no every time that we've asked.
Because it needs to be their program and their staff,
Right.
because that's where the licensure lies.
That's why what my question is what's different about now versus
That BTG would be running the program and the curriculum and the sports and everything else. They would be the site director there and everything.
okay,
else. So
okay,
that's
okay.
it.
Yeah,
So if you just,
it
okay.
wouldn't be.
I was
it's
misunderstanding
ABS
that.
Adventure
Yeah, they-
Club.
Okay,
they
I got
can
it.
just absorb somebody.
Okay,
Maybe
It
BTG.
would be. Virginia.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
Which doesn't mean it couldn't look a little bit different and take its own flavor in a different place. But that would then also need to be approved through licensure.
Okay.
So it's hard to start a program from scratch, thinking it's the same process you would have to start if you're starting your own licensed daycare. You really have to prove everything from soup to nuts.
Or your own school, or, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know much about the status of BTG?
I know Kate probably knows just about as much as I do that they've been struggling with staffing and we put it out to the staff here as well, a couple of different times to see if they were interested in working BTG, but they're as Christine said, they're at the max of the number of kids they can take with the staff that they have. And they have a couple of really great volunteers, but those students don't count as against their staffing numbers.
Uh-huh.
So I think they have 3 adults, Kate, am I remembering correctly, that are consistent adults?
I
3
think
or
it's
4
only
adults.
I think it's only 2 consistent adults.
Occasionally you see 3, but yeah, it's 2, which would, I think, puts them at 20, 25.
Yeah, it limits them. And Carrie's been trying, like she wants to expand the program. She's always looked for this opportunity and looked for it before, and now just can't staff it. So it's 2 adults and a sub right now.
Okay. And do you have any idea what they're doing at the select board regarding what their idea is about?
Well, I think they're exploring, because in some towns, the rec department runs the after-school program. And I don't think that West Windsor has a rec department. So I think they're engaging in conversation about that. Is that feasible? Is it possible? And if so, could the rec department run the after-school program? So I think she's trying to explore all options.
Uh-huh.
And it is, it's difficult. It is childcare, and the school wants to support and help, but it is childcare for families. So it's an added ask of the school. So she's doing her best, but she's also running school during the day.
Yeah, and it's a challenge everywhere.
Yeah.
Rec departments are having a hard time hiring people to manage their after-school programs.
Yeah.
And we're not the only school. I know that Two Rivers Supervisory Union can't manage an after-school program right now because they can't find the staff.
And it's hard, West Windsor is particularly hard because it's hard to get somebody to go to Brownsville for 2 hours.
Yeah.
2.5 hours.
I mean, ideally, it could be, if we could find the staffing, it would be
That's
ideal.
always been the linchpin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, since we've lived at Brownsville, it's
Yeah.
it's always been problematic.
Yeah, I mean, Jen is definitely doing her due diligence to try to figure it
No,
out.
I'm not doubting that, I'm just
Yeah.
asking
Yeah.
questions. So,
It's hard for families, I mean, we know that.
well, we don't have any childcare in Brownsville
Yeah.
at all, so. Rebecca, I see that you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. Is the problem also, or is it that there is an inconsistency in how many, children are coming into the school system and how many children need childcare? I'm just wondering if that number has remained constant or has it changed? And I'm not only talking about during COVID, but prior to COVID.
Well, as far as I know, it's really always been about staffing. And there's always been around 20 kids who have needed after-school care. And there's always, it's been kind of bumbling along for years.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. We'll go to the next slide.
Sure. We obviously have a school counselor need, as noted, past board meetings, unfilled and desired middle school counselor position, and also certainly an unfilled and desired high school guidance counselor position. So we have started a collaboration with having the new hire school counselor over at ABS here 1 day a week to help share some of the load there. And the BTG 7 West Windsor kids, I believe, are able to get in, but it sounds like that's not quite the need, but.
That's how many fit in the van.
That's how many fit in the van. So,
And in the program.
so nice to see the Mount Scottney lines getting together to fix problems that come up. I think the numbers for school choice were asked for in the last meeting, and they're here by grade level. So students coming to Windsor here, you can see on the right in green, students going to ABS in the left.
Nancy, I see you've raised your hand.
How many children are at Albert Bridge in total?
I don't know the ABS rule.
I'm not sure. I want to guess around 45, 50. Does that sound about right? Total enrollment?
Oh.
You think it's more?
I thought it
I'm
was-
looking it up on Power School right now.
Oh, yeah, that was my next move. Thanks,
I
Kate.
would say the number 52 is sticking in my head,
52?
but that's just,
And that includes the sticks.
It's 58 students in Power School.
Hey, that's great. Thanks, Colleen.
Thank you.
Okay. Next slide.
Hiring needs, I just noted a couple of them there. Fourth grade teacher is a certain one. It's a bit of a bubble class. We're managing at the moment with a very, very strong fourth grade team, which is awesome. But of course, we'd love to have some more resources there to leverage for fourth grade. Middle school counselor, I noted already. Then high school counselor, obviously, and also an academic support teacher for the hub.
And a health teacher.
Yeah, Kate or Colleen, did I miss anything there?
Health is still lacking.
Are we still looking for a health teacher?
Yes.
Yeah, we have it posted and we're still looking at pretty much do with anyone we interview for the academic support teacher. If there's any way to get them a provisional for health, we're looking about different solutions we could do in-house with a provisional for health. So we're hoping to bump it up to the top of the list and repost right when people are graduating in December.
Thank you. Rebecca, I see that you've raised your hand.
I have a question regarding the needs of the juniors who, I don't know how many juniors we have right now, and the seniors, and how their needs are being filled at the moment. I mean, for juniors, it's for both. It's a really important time, and I'm just wondering if you have someone that's helping them.
The counseling needs? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we did, you should come visit. So what we did is in the student services, we put our HRS clinician, or not HRS, it's now our in-house clinician because we couldn't find one through HRS, who's Shelly Becker. Right next to her is Jess Vivian, who's our counselor. Right next to her is Bridget Ferriel, who's our MTSS 504, but knows a lot about Power School also. Then we have this conference room. It's kind of like the war room where everyone could go in and work together. And then on the other side is our BCBA, Erin Rockwood. So that we're kind of taking like a team approach. And Colleen and I, because we know these kids and we've taught these kids, we're going to take the letters of recommendations off Jessica's plate because they can come from a counselor or an administrator. So we're going to take a lot of those off the plate. And then we kind of triage, like if it's a crisis, that would have gone to a clinician anyway. So that's going right to Shelly. If it's something that we need to team, then Jessica takes it either with the help of the nurse or myself. And Bridget's really stepped up and doing a ton of like the Power School scheduling stuff. It's working. It's working great. It was fast and furious at the beginning, and now we've seemed to settle into a nice pace. But it'll be really nice to find someone. But now we feel like the pressure's off of finding a body, and we're gonna find the right fit.
That is really amazing, and I just want to congratulate you all on that work. But that sounds great. Thank you.
Colleen, I see you've raised your hand.
I just wanted to add one other way we're taking a little bit off of Jessica's plate is today was the first day we were able to have Mr. McPhillips with us from Albert Bridge, who's going to be with us at least one day a week. And he is taking on some of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade needs. So with the team, with the SEIs, with the mental health clinician, with support staff, and with Andrew McPhillips on Mondays right now, we're able to make a pretty succinct schedule to touch base with all of the students who have those needs, and we do them on rotating basis. So we have a start to help so that Jessica is not, and our elementary counselor is not feeling all the pressure to have all the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade along with the high school and elementary school. So we're teaming it at the middle school too to support.
I have a question. Sorry. Who does the college application side of guidance counseling?
Jessica takes the lead on that, and right now she's setting up meetings. Every senior, they're the priority of coming in to get a one-on-one meeting to get their college applications going.
Okay. Thank you.
And she sends out a nice newsletter every week. You probably don't get it, so it'll be like they'll go to the seniors or the ones that just go to the high school thing about high school parents. But it's all about opportunities, internships, scholarships. But right now the focus is on the college applications.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
K5, that's me. Here we go. It's been a super strong start to the school year. It has been really fun to be a new person, to see the Windsor program spool up, and super excited to meet smiling faces at the door every day and do the work that we do. Now we're in the act of kind of settling into our routines and creating classroom communities, which I think is the most important thing to note at this time. This is where they're building relationships and building trust to do the hard work of the academics now and ahead. And a lot of that work is being done through things like Responsive Classroom and Leader in Me. So it's been fun to watch. And I didn't get all the pictures, but I have put them in here, but I certainly could in the future. Classroom mission statements that go along with the Leader in Me program. Each of the K-5 classrooms has done that, focusing on, actually, sorry, I think this is a little bit later on. But anyways, I digress. Leader in Me to start, which is great. Some of the other exciting things that we have noted are a fully staffed team of SEIs for the elementary school, which has been a great resource in helping students build skill and stay in class and engage in their learning and build relationships. Wonderful. A lot of our team has been doing summer work and is signing up for work this fall around the science of reading. So it's really fun to walk around to start to see some of that work integrate into curriculum and integrate into work with our kids right away, which is awesome. Leader in Me, I jumped ahead of myself because I was excited, I guess, there. But anyways, there it is again, Leader in Me, classroom mission statements. I think we have a slide talking about Leader in Me specifically. A big excitement, if you were to talk to our K-5 students, of course, hurrah, is lunch is back in the cafeteria this year, which has been really fun. We have 3 elementary school lunches, K1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. And so far, so great. It's been really good to get back in and help our students understand and learn how to eat lunch in the dining hall. Some of our students, especially the younger ones, have never done this at school. So it's an important skill and, of course, an important opportunity for social skill building and an important way to highlight our wonderful in-house food service, which is great. So far, so good. It was breakfast for lunch today, which was very popular.
Nice.
Let's say a little sticky because there was maple syrup, but it was very popular. Our folks are also really excited in the elementary level about several of our classrooms getting to pilot Eureka Squared. Somebody who worked with Eureka Math for years and is generally highly of it. One of those things that was always fun to juice up with all sorts of activities, and Eureka Squared does just that. So far, so great there as well.
What is Eureka Square?
It's our math curriculum.
Is it an augmentation of Eureka Math?
It's a pilot of the new version.
Okay.
So
Okay. So what's different about it?
It takes, I think Eureka was and has been a pretty popular program around, and it's based in best practice, and I think generally very well regarded. As a longtime math teacher, it is always one that I like to spice up and bring connected activities into, emotion into, and things like that. And Eureka, I think they got the feedback, and Eureka Squared very much does that,
Good.
which is very cool. So I've been in the second grade a lot these last couple days, today and last week, where they were doing some of those activities, and it seemed to be going really well. So it's exciting to see that work going, and kudos to those teachers for leading that.
It's less, one of the big complaints about Eureka was it was really language heavy.
Yep.
Really language heavy. So this is tapered down, and I think it's, if I'm wrong, it's based on principles of UDL,
Mhm.
so, which is really important. But it seems good so far.
Yeah, I think our folks are really happy.
Can you explain what UDL is, please?
Universal Design for Learning, which
Thank
is,
you.
just practices making sure that we have representation, engagement, and there's one more I always forget. There's 3 parts of UDL. I'll Google it. It's really, it's about access and making sure all kids can access the curriculum. So it's representation. Computer's going to be slow. Engagement, representation, action, and expression. So
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Okay, that's that. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Kindergarten open house, you did that one? Still it?
Kindergarten open house, which was great. It's nice to get back to doing those kinds of activities. I think we had 90% or so of our families.
Excellent.
It's great. So,
Good evening, everyone. Our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are off to a great start. They are currently planning their first trip this Thursday and Friday to Farm and Wilderness. One of the things that's happening with our new middle school model is we're really making sure that when we touch base with our other school partners, I know Christine's going to talk a little bit more about that, we're using common language, and some of the consistent things that we're doing is consistent advisory messaging for all grades, themes for all the 6th through 8th graders, and it's nice to have them all in one, mostly in one wing, minus their specials and one of their classes. They're pretty close to each other in a hallway with lockers. That's really exciting for middle school students. The trip is coming up, the Farm and Wilderness, this Thursday and Friday, and we will have lots of pictures to share from our next school board meeting. The teachers and students are talking about the farming they're going to do, the hiking they're going to do, the exploration, the math lessons, the science lessons, the cooking together. We're hoping that Ms. Bourne will be with us for the day on Saturday if she can make it to see some of those activities. And we're really excited to be sleeping in cabins for the 7th and 8th graders on Thursday night. So we're really looking forward to it. The other thing that's going on with the middle school is their schedule this year is really, really nice in that they get to participate in lots of things without those items conflicting in their schedule. So they have the opportunity to be a part of music ensembles. The teachers are really happy about this. They're able to have the choice to do that music ensemble or some one-on-one time, what we call win time, what I need now, working on courses or intervention with the teachers help that they need with. They also, every student will have a whole semester of physical education. They have 1 or 2 choices in the year for unified arts, depending on if it's a semester or quarter-long class, which is theater, art, and tech ed. And the students all chose what their first choices were, so they all got their first choice. It might not have been the first quarter or the first semester, but they're getting that first choice this year as an option. And our 8th graders are able to take world language as a choice and for a semester. And all of our students get at least a semester of a passion period, which the students are working with the teachers for different mini courses that they're going to rotate through. And right now they're kind of introducing that to the students until we get back from Farm and Wilderness this week. And then we're going to get into a pretty consistent rotation of what students are interested in. So we're looking at some academic enrichment courses during 7th period, as well as some clubs during 7th period. Yes, Elizabeth.
What is world language?
So we have 1 world language teacher in the school right now. We could not fill the French teacher position. So she does a Spanish immersion program, and our 8th graders are able to take that course as an introductory, but they also get an opportunity if they want to test out of that at the end of the semester to earn a high school credit. Or maybe it's a high school half credit for the Spanish, but I could be wrong. I'd have to double check if it's a half credit or whole credit.
I have another question just really quickly, and then I'll get to you, Rebecca. Do students have the opportunity to take any classes online in middle school? Like if they wanted to take a language other than Spanish?
I don't think that has come up, but we could definitely talk that through as a team. I don't know if it is. Yeah, I think that's something we can definitely talk through. I was just thinking about outside of the school day or inside of the school day. So we would have to see how that could fit.
just wondering whether it was possible to make the opportunity available.
Yeah, I really don't know the offerings of the languages at the middle school level. We're mostly familiar with all the offerings that we had at the high school level when we were in our period of COVID and using VTVLC for all of our coursework. So I would have to follow up with that. I can get back to you on that.
Thank you. Rebecca, I see you've raised your hand.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was my question. I think it would be a great opportunity for eighth graders to be able to access another language. It would, yeah. And I know that it is offered. It's been a long time, but I know that it is offered online. And the last time I recall it being offered, it was opportunities that were offered in the library, but I would like if you would explore that, because I would like for eighth graders to be able to access another language.
I'll explore that with Angie and the VTVLC options and report back. Can I just say the two pieces of those pictures? The one picture is a science class and the students did some hands-on learning in the first week. That's the lower picture. The picture up above is leaders in action. It's our eighth graders actually in one of the passion periods teaching the sixth graders an activity. So it was like natural leaders, which was great.
Can I think there are people trying to get in and I don't see them when I'm presenting. So presenting, Kate or Colleen, could you present your screens? Is that feasible?
Yeah, I could do it.
Okay, sorry. I think somebody was trying to get in and I didn't see it because I wasn't on that screen.
Nancy, I see you've raised your hand.
I just want to tell Colleen, it looks really exciting. And I'm sort of sorry that we missed it because my son is in the upper school, but that you've done a lot of work and it sounds very, very good.
Colleen, I have a question about the general, and maybe my question should be directed to Angie, but is VTVLC the only thing that we have access to in terms of online classes?
We've also used Edmentum, and I believe we have one more platform, which I'm not thinking of right now, that Ms. Gogan uses with the flexible pathway students. So I'll follow up with Ms. Gogan and Angie and Jessica.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are we on to me now? Sorry, I'm like sharing and looking now.
Sorry.
That's okay. The 9/12 opening was great. Shout out to the Booster Club that kind of lined our walkways with some welcome back signs, which was nice for both the teachers and the staff. And the PTO did that on the elementary side, so that was nice to come back to. We did host this year a welcome breakfast for the freshmen, so that took place before school started. Students and families came in. Craig provided them breakfast and they were able to get their lockers and do a tour of the school, kind of get those first day jitters out if they didn't know where their room was. Teachers came and met them. We have 80 freshmen in our freshman class, so that puts our high school up to about 260 this year. It's 80 and then about 65, 60, and 50. So a really nice population there. Our homecoming is next week. It kicks off the 22nd with our community barbecue. And then Friday, September 23rd, we have field hockey at 4. The bonfire is to be determined, and I'll tell you why, and maybe someone there will have the answer. Davis, I'm counting on you. So the Autumn Moon Fest asked us when our homecoming is because they like to coincide with it. So it's that Friday. So now we have the field hockey game at 4, and then we could put in the bonfire at dusk, which is about an hour, so probably 7:30 to 8:30. And that would be Friday night. And I'm unsure if the Autumn Moon Fest put that in purpose. I know they put it in purposely during homecoming weekend, but I'm not sure if they put it in purposely during bonfire night. So I reached out to Riley to ask her because we could make a switch and do the bonfire on Thursday. So I reached out to her to ask her because I want to work with the events in our town and not compete with them. So I'm just waiting on that answer, and then I will announce the bonfire if it's Thursday or Friday. Saturday is girls soccer. Right now that game's scheduled for 4, and that's a real bummer to the girls. They feel like nobody comes at that time, so we're trying to work with the other team to switch it, but we have no confirmation on that yet. So I hope no matter what time it is, we get some faces out there to cheer on the girls. And then the football game is at 1:00. While we're on the topic of football, well, I'll say we're also having a homecoming dance on Saturday night from about 8 to 10. So that's going to be awesome. I plan on doing a balloon arch. So I figure if I put it out there publicly, then I'll have to show you my hard work and maybe I can actually pull it off. I don't know if you went to the football game on Saturday, but our varsity football team has borrowed the kicker from the girls varsity soccer team, Olivia McClay, and she went 6 for 6 at Saturday's game.
Wow.
So I sent it into the Valley News today to see if they'd come out here and talk to her, but the Eagle Times did come out and talk to her, so I'm hoping that she's featured in the paper. So that's cool. Next is, you can't see, but these are the clothes I have on today. So this literally just happened. The furniture got delivered. I sent Larry a text. He came over. Craig was opening it. Craig said we're going to do it today. So it was kind of like an all hands on deck of Craig Lucerno, Rodney Claro, Larry was there, Colleen was there, Sergio was there. Anyone in that pod who has a child, their child was there getting some stuff done. And we got all this furniture set up we started at about 3 and finished at about 5:30. So if you're over there in Windsor tonight, it's worth taking a walk down to see. I don't know who's my age, but it's very Saved by the Bell to me, which is obviously cool. Next on here is safety at Windsor School. I put this on this. This is kind of SU expectations, but I wanted everyone to know about the changes, because if Bill's knocking on our door and no one's answering it, I want you to know then that we're doing a good job if that's the case, because we're kind of letting all of our kids know, our staff know, it doesn't matter who's banging on that door. You cannot open it to let them in. Everyone has to go through the protocol, no matter who you are. So when you come to the door, we only have 2 entrances they can go to during the day, Kristen or Wendy, and there's no surprise guests. So if I had someone coming today, I would email Kristen. I would say, just want to let you know, Rebecca Roisman's coming to school on Thursday. She should be at your entrance at about 9:00. Please send me a text when she gets here. I will then walk over and meet Rebecca, and we will walk to our location together. I just wanted, and we're putting that in our newsletter for our parents to be aware. But if I'm out there and I'm knocking on the door, we don't even want the kids to open the door for that, so that everyone is practicing the protocols, knows the protocols. So I don't want you to come and feel like, God, how unwelcoming. They won't even let me in. We're just trying to keep the school as safe as possible. Colleen, myself, Sergio, and Paul had our first meeting the other day about what safety drills are going to look like, and kind of what a contingency plan were to look like should something happen. And we do have to do 10 safety drills this year, and 3 of them have to be options based, which means that the teacher has to talk through the class and say, okay, if we had an intruder in the building and today we were going to evacuate the building, what would that look like? How would we get out of the building? Where would we go? We're moving slowly but forward, I should say, with these drills, because we understand the importance of them, but we also understand the importance of not traumatizing kids or adults in our building. We're going to be transparent about them with parents and kids. And if anyone has any questions, please bring them to our attention. We'll be happy to address them. Paul's been a great resource. Sergio's brought a lot to the team with throwing this idea out there of table talk, where the 4 of us just to get together, or the whole admin team get together, and they throw out scenarios so that you practice. So what would you do if this happened? And while it's like terrifying and not fun to talk about, it's really making us think, and I feel really get prepared should anything happen.
And the theme for Alice is prepared, not scared.
Rebecca?
I really like the idea of of focusing on safety. I really like the idea of making it transparent. I really like the idea of making it public. That that how we can be involved in creating a safe community. So I just really like what you're doing here, and I think the more it'd be great to just make sure that we get that information. Just so that we're aware of what does safety look like in our school community. But I think it's a great idea. Thanks so much.
Yep, you just reminded me, on December 5th, we have a half day. So our admin meeting, we're going to ask the other schools for permission and help, and we're going to farm out Windsor teachers for that day. So they'll come into school, kids will be dismissed at 12. By 1 o'clock, all Windsor teachers will be out of the building, at another building for the in-service. And then Chief Frank, along with some state troopers, are coming into our building and doing an actual training in our building, so that they know the ins and outs of our buildings and that they're prepared. So I hope that brings some comfort to the community. I know firsthand that sometimes you think twice about sending your kid to school some days because you just have this bad feeling or you saw something on the news, and I want them to know we're doing everything we possibly can to keep these kids safe. Leader Me, I think that Colleen and Sergio kind of both touched on it. I'll be open that and Bill can probably back me up on that. High school teachers are sometimes kind of the last to jump on board with a new initiative or a change. And shout out to Jeff Beachy and Kimberly Johnson, because they have hopped right on and said, we are going to be the change we want to see. We are going to be the voice. And this was the end of last year. My kids are arguing with each other right outside the store. That was the end of last year. And they've really taken the lead. And we've had our meetings with Leader and Me. We've had our meetings with Mike Nicholson. And, the competitive spirit of me is pleased to hear them say every time, you guys are so far ahead in this right now. You're doing so much. So Jeff and Kim did a nice job of weaving it into Portrait of a Grad and breaking it down so that they're having weekly meetings with about 25 high school students. And this is just step one. And their plan is to have the high school students eventually become the teachers in the future years. And it's a lot of extra work for them with not a lot of extra compensation at all. And they're really doing it enthusiastically and happily. So that's nice to see.
For the middle school, we are working, for the Leader and Me in the middle school, we have the teachers trying to get through the 7 habits, dividing them out. So between now and December, we spend 2 to 3 weeks on each habit, because when we get to December and start the next semester, we're going to move as a district into the Core 2 training. And the first part of the training is learning and living the 7 habits. So Mr. Pooler is the lighthouse leader for the middle school team, and he's coordinating all of our Leader and Me advisory lessons. And we have, as a staff, we have a lighthouse meeting once a month, and we have an action team, Leader and Me action team meeting another time a month, so everybody can participate. And we are also excited about having these kids who are naturally stepping up to these leadership roles without even being asked. Some are thinking about it in a more formal way, how they can do it. They're talking about maybe wanting elections and things like that in the middle school. And other kids are stepping up to lead class meetings, which have already happened. So we're excited about that.
Got ahead of myself a little bit earlier, but elementary school, we're focusing on developing classroom mission statements. Those are done across K-5 now, and that's really exciting to see. Those are done obviously with students. It's exciting process that takes a little time. They're focusing on an initiative in Leader called the First 8 Days and direct teaching of the 7 habits, which has been happening together, which is really good to see. And off to a great start.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, thank you for putting that up, Rebecca.
That's okay. I was at a second where I couldn't unmute.
Acknowledge your hand.
Thank you. I was just wondering, is there a way to sort of, how is it, the roles that, to sort of chart in students' records on some level, these students that are stepping up to just, I'm not sure how that would go into their personal learning plan or whatever, but a way to kind of like note that so that they start developing that portfolio about who they are and you know, I mean, that should be a wonderful, you know, evolution at some point. But if there's a way to sort of identify that and just let students know, and they can look back and say, oh wow, yeah, I did it, I've done it, and I continue to do it. Do you know what I'm asking, Colleen?
Yeah, I think we have our grade level faculty meetings. Once a month, we do the full faculty, and one time a month, we do our grade level faculty meetings, which is coming up next Wednesday. So I think that is a place for Kate and Sergio and Jen too, to remind our staff where do we find the time to remind our students that their leadership roles can also be a part of their PLP. I know in the middle school, they have part of their themes and advisory is taking that time to work on the PLP, but I'm going to make sure I bring it to their attention that we have to make sure it gets into the PLP when they're naturally stepping up. And I think Mr. Beachy and Mr. Brink Johnson and the Lighthouse team in elementary school would feel exactly the same way. So good reminder. We will bring it up to the staff.
Okay, I'm on. I'll be brief. Just a couple of things that are specific to Mount Scottney, not in the superintendent report from a couple weeks ago. We talked about lead roles at Mount Scottney for the lead learners that we have here. And the team has kind of taken on natural interests. So Colleen is going to be the lead learner, I would say the go-to person for our wellness team, which is run by actually a staff member, but she's the administrator who's the support for that, and will help that team move forward. And that's a really important team. We know that wellness of our staff is of utmost importance. So,
Oh, okay, so wellness is staff wellness.
staff wellness. Yeah.
Okay.
Not that student wellness is not important as well, but this is primarily focused. Am I correct on that, Colleen?
Well, the wellness, the team is focusing on students and staff. So we're working with our VHI coordinators and our wellness leaders, Elizabeth and Annette. And then we're also looking with our team, people on the wellness team who are comprised of people all over the SU, of themes for the schools, for wellness for the students as well. So it's both.
Both, good. So Colleen's going to be the lead on that. Jen is focusing on SEL and the performing arts. She is very dedicated to building our music program back up. It suffered a little bit during the pandemic, so she's taking the lead on that. And within SEL, you know, Jen's has been the lead on collaborative problem solving, some of the trauma-based work we've done. So that all is incorporated in there. Sergio and also Katie, who's here, she's not on this Mount Scottney list, but Sergio and Katie are going to be taking the lead on the diversity, equity, and inclusion team. We're going to have a school team that meets during our end of day time, and we're also planning on having a community team. And so how those two teams kind of mesh together. We're still trying to figure out, but
What do you mean by school team? Do you mean teachers
teacher
and
team.
students and
Um,
other staff?
Yeah, yeah. And we haven't, we had staff do a survey in the beginning of the Welcome Back where they got to choose what they were interested in working on. So we have a number of staff really interested in working on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some of that is going to be those action steps that the Anti-Racism Task Force created, and figuring out what that team can take on this year, and how to bring students into the conversation as well. So,
And Katie, does the special ed staff take part in all the different? Okay. Together, not separately? Or are they?
Oh, all together.
Okay. Just wondering.
and Kate is going to take the lead on being the communications person, really making sure the newsletters get done and out, because it's a collaborative effort. Somebody needs to start that charge. Board reports, those kinds of things. Some of the shared responsibilities we talked about, MTSS really happens at different levels, so it makes sense for each lead learner to kind of manage that in their own grade span. We are Hope as well, food service and transportation, although they knit together, they are separate as well. So those are going to share. So those are the lead roles of the lead learners.
Does anybody have any idea what the transportation problem for Albert Bridge has been?
Yeah, for the after school program.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was,
Okay.
We had set up a transfer,
Uh-huh.
and we only did it one day. It took, it was well over an hour. I heard an hour and a half for that transportation from Albert Bridge to BTG. So currently Jen is driving them in one of the vans at the end of the day, which is much faster. And, you know, hopefully we can get a program at ABS. We won't have to worry about that anymore, but we'll see.
Rebecca, I see that you've raised your hand.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Christine, I see that Kate is going to be doing communications, newsletter, and report. Does that mean that there's going to be a monthly report on how these lead roles are evolving?
I don't think so. We just wanted a point person. I mean, we can certainly talk about it if need be. Kate was going to take the lead on making sure the reports and the newsletters get started and shared out, because somebody has to do that. And so she was going to take the lead on that. And then, I mean, Sergio does part of the newsletter, part of the board report, but she's taking the lead on it. And those were roles that the team, those were chosen roles, what they wanted to be in charge of. So does that sound okay, Rebecca?
Yeah, no, that's good. It's just that I'd be interested in just hearing some of, what those conversations are about, and because it sounds exciting.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure
obviously these folks are passionate about the areas that they've chosen, so it just sounds exciting.
Oh, and I'm
Yeah,
sure.
and no one's on it alone. Like Larry and Brittany are helping me, so it's kind of like a team approach to everything.
And if you're speaking of reports on how those teams are going, like what wellness is happening, within the SU, I'm sure that will be included in the board reports going forward. Those teams just started meeting today, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just wanted to bring back middle level model. I know it's something that we're talking a lot about at Mount Scottney, and how we collaborate with our Albert Bridge middle level students. So just briefly, the middle level team is meeting monthly. Some of the goals that they set are consistency in advisory programs across the SU. So they are all doing some Leader in Me lessons, however they choose to do them. and they are working on PLPs. Some schools have dabbled in this before, and it's not very, it's not new to them. Some schools, one in particular, really hasn't done an advisory program at all, so they're moving a little bit slower and figuring things out, but that is the goal. And when they met right at the start of school, we talked about how do we know this model is working? What data can we collect to show progress? And so the middle level teachers came up with a quick survey to give to the students 3 times a year on that reflects the model. And so we'll bring that data to you at a future date. But they are definitely collaborating and working together, and it's nice to see. Oh, Jen's here. So we'll continue to talk about the middle level model as the year goes on. And my last slide is just a reminder and a plug again. I'll keep bringing it if Kate can advance the slide. She goes that the VSBA conference is in October. I hope many of you will join me there with the theme of how are the students doing. So that's just a reminder that it's coming up in a month. We still have time. Hi, Jen. And I don't know if Jen wants to do any follow-up on, we couldn't play your recording because it was in the trash for some reason, but Sergio gave you a report and he did a really nice job.
Excellent.
And I don't know if you had any follow-up from your meeting or not yet.
I can tell you where they are, which is, we shared the situation where we are with the after-school issues, and they would like us to move forward with trying to develop a recreation department.
Huh. Although, in full disclosure, it can't be developed until March.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So it's not this year's solution.
And who's going to be primary lead on that?
So right now, Jessica Brody and myself are going to work together to try and create a presentation for the town about possible benefits.
Excellent. I think we didn't have any other questions from Jen, did we, from her report? Good answer. We figured out you have 58 students enrolled
Yes.
currently. As one. Any others? All right. Thanks, Kate. You can stop sharing if you'd like.
Done. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all very, very much, and congratulations on what sounds like a great start to the year. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. We didn't hear about the role of the van and whether it enables interaction between schools and or field trips. How's the van share going?
So right now, a part of the presentation was the issue with the bus ride, I think. So the way we have solved that currently, because the students were not getting here until almost 4 o'clock, which when you get on the bus at 2:25 to 4 o'clock doesn't cut it. So we've actually started, I typically middle of the day come over, pick up the van and drive our kids from West Windsor to Windsor every day with the van. So it's being used that way at this point. We have not done any between the school day sharing activities at this point, but we're in the first few weeks.
And what about transportation of the Windsor kids over to Albert Bridge?
So right now, parents are doing that.
Okay. Bill, I see that you've raised your hand.
So my question would be, and this is a rhetorical question, of course, because no one has the answer, but it may be something that we may want to explore. What changes might need to be done so that busing fits the needs of all students within this school district. And we do hire a bus company, and I think the goal of getting the van was not that to transport students to the after school program. And this is sort of an amazing thing that Jennifer has put together to, make things work at the same time as we come up on budget discussions and, you know, um, and how the bus company actually functions. In the past, David has intimated, David Baker had intimated difficulties in getting the bus company to understand that we are now a school district, not just Albert Bridge School District, and I mean West Windsor School District and Windsor School District. We are one school district, and getting the head of the busing company to grasp that. Um, that him intimating that made me infer that there's some difficulties dealing with the bus company. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just something that I picked up. Um, so I think as a school board going into budget season to explore, um, one, the function of the bus company. Two, are they doing what we're paying them for? Three, are there other options in which we can fund more to get what we need? Just something I just want to bring up.
So I can say, Bill, that when the situation occurred and I talked with Larry, he connected with the bus company, and it sounds like they had limitations in their drivers as well. So they were not able to figure out another option at this time. And it sounded like it was not, that they didn't necessarily understand the need, but they didn't have capacity, is how I understood it from Larry.
Right. And if that is the case, then as a school board, I think it would be important for us to look at what we can do to make sure that that capacity is there within busing that fits the needs of both schools. Okay. That's all. Basically, what I'm pointing out is I want to be as supportive of a board so that busing is not an issue that principals need to deal with. Okay. And I'd like to know more about the role of the buses, what they may need to get it done. And I just like to understand it more because I am a systems guy. This is what I do. I figure out issues and stuff. But my role here really is limited to, policy making and budgeting. So what is there within the policy? Probably nothing. What is there within the budget that we could do to assist both buildings in busing?
And Bill, I believe Larry was trying to, and Larry's the point person with Mike got out of the bus company. And what he was trying to do was make it work with the buses that we have available. So I think what you're maybe suggesting is we may need another bus as a potential solution.
Right.
Because
So
we could do it with what we had. It's just those kids were on the bus for a long time.
yeah, and that's what I want to limit. I don't want kids on the bus for an hour, no matter if it's in the morning, in the afternoon. That's especially younger students. May I suggest that next board meeting or board meeting after, we ask Larry to come and give his perspective?
Sure.
So where does the bus go after it drops off the Windsor kids at Albert Bridge?
It goes back on its route through Windsor, so it goes back down 44 and then off 44A,
Okay.
is my understanding.
Because okay. I didn't realize it wasn't its own.
Yeah, it's got a whole host of kids on that bus. It's pretty packed.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, that one day, I know the whole story because my son was on the bus. Is that one? It was late from HACTC. It got late to Albert Bridge, and then it had to go through its entire drop-off route, and then it went to Windsor. So I got to pick up Daniel at 4:30 after he had gotten there at 4:15 or so. So
Okay. All right. Okay. Just looking at the. Okay, let's move to items for discussion. Update on the movie and panel discussion. Unfortunately, I went to the summit down in Phoenix and caught COVID, right, I think at the summit. And so I was out of commission on planning the panel for a week after I was already gone for almost a week. And so I'm behind. This is my first real week of full being back, all one day of it so far. And we do not yet have funding for the film presentation. So that does not mean that everything has been dropped, but I think it's going to be delayed by a couple of weeks. So that's where everything stands at the moment. I did learn a lot when I was at the Early Childhood Education Summit and Early Childhood Child Care and Education Summit. And a lot of it very useful for the purpose of this particular discussion. And I asked people from all over the country, particularly rural states, what their solutions were. So I think it'll be a robust discussion. That's where that stands. Update on engaging students as members of the school board. Kate, well, as a result of my having had COVID, Rebecca and I have not been able to go down to the school to talk to students about it. I know that we have at least one very interested party who would like to be part of or put his name into the selection process. And now Rebecca will be gone for about a week. Right, Rebecca? Yeah. So that's all being pushed back as well. But once we come and talk to the classes, can you remind me what the next step in the process is? Students fill out an application.
Mhm.
Is that application available somewhere on the school website already? Is there a way to get?
I
Can we get
think the last thing we did was I shared it with everyone to see if it wanted to be an update. If anybody wanted to update it, but I could have it shared out and I could have it emailed to all of the students. That's very easy. So
you could just put it. Is there a way to put it on the high school website as well?
Yeah,
With
I
like
can send it to the webmaster. That's very easy.
and like a description of the process.
Yep, I can do that. Do you know, I will say when I go around to classes, when Colleen and I have gone around the past, the single response we always get is the time.
The amount of time?
Yeah. I mean, I see it now with my own kids and they're not even in high school yet. They're just overbooked. They do so much. And they just have concerns about putting one more thing. So if we could kind of ease that worry with them, I think that would get a lot more interest. But I don't know. My other thought was in the meantime, like once Mr. Beachy, Mr. Brigg Johnson get the leader and me going, like have a couple of those kids take turns coming to the board meetings. Because they can report out on what's going on, and they could also take in information. And they're kind of a cohesive group with two moderators. So it might be a nice way to start.
Well, I think those are two separate purposes. One is to hear from the students reporting out to our board, and also having them report, or having them hear what our board is up to and reporting back to the students. But also, we want to have a student board member who weighs in on our discussions on behalf of the students.
Okay.
And so that would require a consistent person. I mean, both of those things
And happen at the same
are
time.
really valuable. They're really valuable, but we also need a student board member who can kind of weigh in for us to give us a perspective on what we're talking about.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you want me to just email you to set up a time to come in sooner rather than later?
Yes.
Or I guess you email me a time and we'll make it happen on this end.
Okay. I mean, I really have, for the next couple of weeks, I've got plenty of time and I can come in.
That'd be great because it would be least disruptive if you could come in like in the morning and do freshmen and sophomores because they're all together then. And then last period, juniors and seniors are all together. So if you can make 2 appearances, that would be really great.
Okay. Do we want to also talk to middle schoolers about it? Just in case there's a middle schooler who'd like to? Or did we agree that we were just going to do high school? I can't remember. Bill, I see that you've raised your hand.
Oh, thank you. As we're discussing this, I want to put in a plug here for my opinion about not just looking at student board members to get feedback from students, but also utilizing existing student groups to share what they have done and what they've discussed within their work within the high school. I think this is an idea that Colleen brought up a while ago, and I'd have to say that I'm all on board for that, just because I've seen it work, and it could be a really useful an additional line of communication and have a broader impact on allowing students at the high school level in particular to feel connected to decision makings. It's sort of, walking the walk of Leader and Me at a high school level. And so that they, as a group, working within the group, discuss topics that they have and possibly topics that we have to come up with solution, and then to give them a platform within a school board meeting to share that.
I think what I liked about what Bill shared, I think at the last time we spoke about this was, and we say it all the time as administrators and teachers, meeting the kids where it fits them. And I think that's really important. And We have students who want to participate as a student who wants to be at the board meetings and can stay consistent. That's great. But we also have students who have really busy after school lives who are participating during the school day in school clubs who have voices as a group too. So I love the meeting the kids where they're at.
I totally agree, I'm not, I didn't mean to sound like I was discounting that idea. I think it's a great idea, but I'd like for us to have both. I think both are important, or as my husband likes to say, both.
Yeah, and
Rebecca.
I agree with that. Absolutely. At the same time, pursuing both topics, we may find that one works and one doesn't. And if we can meet the students where they're at, if they're on the board coming every week, that's great. But if we can meet them with their work that they're doing with Leader and Me and other topics at the same time, that may work. So I agree with you, Elizabeth. Let's pursue both options. And
Fingers crossed. Rebecca, I acknowledge your hand.
I agree with everything that's just been said.
Okay, so that is where that is. So, Kate, I will send you an email either tonight or first thing in the morning with times that days that I can come in, both in the morning and the afternoon. Colleen?
I just wanted to say I added the last draft of what I think we had for application for high school board members in the chat.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anything else about the student?
I had a question.
Yes.
If a student really wants to apply for that position before you go visit them, is that allowed?
Yeah, I think the application is.
Just
I think so, yeah.
Just checking.
Did someone just submit an application?
Very possible.
So, but I mean, we still have to go through a process. So, okay, that brings us to preliminary budget discussion. And before we get started on our preliminary budget discussion, I'd like to kind of follow up with a couple of questions about, it's still part of the budget discussion, but did we get the amplification equipment installed at Albert Bridge? Yes.
Yes,
In what classrooms are they?
it's in the 5-6 classroom and the music room.
Okay.
Gonna ask me if I know how to use it?
Do you know how to use it?
I have not figured it out yet.
Okay.
But we've been playing with it.
Maybe Bill could come over and teach you how to use it.
Elizabeth, can you repeat that? I missed what you said.
I asked whether the amplification equipment that we set aside funds for had in fact been installed at Albert Bridge. Did we have any
I
installed
think
at?
there are 8 here and 2 at Albert Bridge.
Okay. And so,
Are they Lightspeed systems?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I use, Casey can come over and show me how to use it.
excellent.
Yay.
So do you know what classrooms they're in here in Windsor?
There are a bunch of them. I couldn't tell you the complete list off the top of my head, but I can certainly
And do you know whether they're being used
believe so.
and to what effect?
I can pull teachers and give you a more detailed response, but I believe that they are in use more in some classrooms than others, and certainly at certain times of the day. So it's in use at times, and I know there's a lot of circle time and things like that where they're perhaps.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they're a tool I'm familiar with from past schools, and they're pretty great.
Excellent. Bill, I see your hand.
So maybe at some point, say 3 or 4 months, mid-year, something like that, we might get some feedback from the teachers. It also might be nice to, if teachers want to, some may want to visit Hartford, some of the Hartford schools to see how they use it, and integrate it.
Amy has her hand up. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy.
It's okay. Christine, is this the same sort of amplification system that Heartland is using? You know,
We had the
speakers?
Phonak system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar. Lightspeed is the one, raised, it's,
Integrated
Right.
into the classroom wiring. Where
Yes.
Phonak is.
we used
Yeah,
them at
that's-
Hartford. We had them at Hartford when I worked there.
Yeah, but I thought, you know, the units that were at Heartland were amazing.
They're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think these are even better.
Yeah, I will mention is some of this
Oh my
talk
gosh.
about,
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah.
Lightspeed system much better.
Right.
So,
Cool. Colleen, I see your hand.
Two things jogged my memory when we started talking about the amplification system. And one of the other classrooms is the ACE classroom is one of the classrooms to have the amplification system. And that made me remember that I had forgotten our ACE classroom is also going on a field trip this week to the Tunbridge Fair. And they will also have some wonderful updates on their slides and pictures when we return next month as well.
They're using the van
and they're very
and a bus.
Colleen, what does ACE stand for?
Academic Community Excellence Classroom.
And there's 4
I went to the
classrooms
Tunbridge
also
Fair
with
for
us.
16 years with my class.
Was it a good
It
experience?
was,
Bill?
but there's definitely some hints that I would pass on if I had that opportunity about how to handle things.
I was a parent volunteer chaperone for 2 years with 2 different second grade classes. And yeah,
Fun
it was
times.
an experience, yes.
Making boots and a lot of stamina. It is ongoing. Several of us are
Yeah,
going on.
it's, yeah, depending on the weather. Woo. It sounds like it's gonna rain this week.
Yeah.
Hence the muck boots.
Sorry.
Been a few times too.
So one of the things that I wondered is throughout our district, I should say, for full disclosure, Hudson shared with me today some feedback that he received from teachers and students about our district and our supervisory union, and I'd be glad to share that with the rest of the board and the SU board. But it raised a question. One of the questions that was raised is going back to the idea of access to elective classes and whether they're accessible online for both school or all of the schools, I should say. And whether we want to explore putting money into more robust access if we don't have access to them, so that our students can have the opportunity to participate in some of those other electives. Does anybody else have any, Kate?
Sorry, I just wanted to say that right now every high school student does have access to at least one online class. We sometimes allow students to take another online class if it meets their needs, but we're also very mindful of things. To take an online class takes a special kind of skill set from a student, right? It's way different than being in a class, and they cost money. So we're very mindful of how opportunities that we give if in the past you haven't fulfilled your end of the opportunity, because of kind of the equity and the financials of it. But every Windsor student does have the chance to get that, and we're trying to roll out or have more students take the opportunity of their dual enrollment credits. And then Rebecca had sent an opportunity last year that she had mentioned at the board meeting, and the name of it's escaping me right now, but we sent that up to Kim Gogan, and that's also something that every high school student has the access to get a college credit where they could actually graduate high school with an associate's degree. So we're putting that information out to our students. That program is not something that a school can bring in. Rather, they provide the information from their students to their students, and the students have to take the lead on it.
Okay. Yes, Rebecca?
We have opportunities right now in Vermont for our high school students to literally graduate with an associate's or very close to an associate's degree. And I'm not sure how that's done. I know that it is done, and I know that it happens, and I think it's just a wonderful opportunity. I don't know if it's a combination of online classes, of also attending one of the community colleges, but I just think it's just a wonderful way, one, to introduce some of our students to college, and if some of them walk away with an associate's degree, that may be enough, at least for them to get into the fields that they're interested in entry-level positions. So yeah, I I'm glad that that's being looked at and explored.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Kate. I do know that having served in the legislature, I know for a fact that there are several programs that for high school students, we in the legislature, we started a program called Grow Your Own. And so we have any nursing, or I think I would be remiss if I said any other program because I'm not sure about outside of the medical field, but there any starting medical program is absolutely free for our students in the state of Vermont, and there are other programs around the state as well, because the idea was to reach down into the high school years to recruit students from I think it starts in 9th grade actually. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, but I wondered also, Kate, you mentioned that it costs money, and I wondered, since we are in our preliminary budget discussion, whether we should be adding that as a budget item for our high schoolers, or for any of our schoolers, and whether I'm asking whether other board members think that's a good idea, or think it requires more investigation, or
Sorry, didn't mean to butt in, but I would think it would be helpful if I brought back more information in the next meeting, like how many students' requests were ever denied for an online class, because in the last 3 years, we've only denied 2. It was based on the fact that we already paid for 3 that they didn't finish, or something like that, like an extreme case. So we are very good about setting it, but what we won't do, and I want to make this clear, is if we offer the class, we're not going to give you an online option because you don't like that teacher or something like that. So if we offer American Lit, you can't take American Lit online unless there's some crazy schedule conflict, just because it's easier online, or you had a personality conflict with that teacher. So there's kind of all these nuances, but I will bring back more information in the next meeting.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Kate. That is not the purpose of the online class, or shouldn't be the purpose of the online class. But you, I have had parents come up and request the class because they did not want their child taking the teacher. And it's so I don't think you're going to ever avoid that. But I agree. That should not be the purpose, of, now if you're talking about a senior that did not take her required 3 English classes, she's in her senior year, and she really needs to take 2 of them at one time. I just think those are just, you really need to look at the needs of the student. But I also want to say that it should be an opportunity for students. So I would appreciate, listening to what's brought back.
And my question is, a couple of questions. One is, are students, I mean, students may not be requesting classes because they don't know they have the opportunity to look into them. And secondly, if there is a scheduling conflict for a student, are they then able to fulfill their, I mean, can they then take an online class if they cannot work it out within their schedule? I'm just asking.
Yeah, they can take an online class if it can't be worked out of schedule. The other thing we have done is a student who has made a goal to graduate in 4 years and really is not in a place to take on the full course load. We'll put them in an online class over the summer. We really do believe in meeting people where they're at. There's just a lot of different nuances to it. And one of them is it's grievable by the union because we can't put teachers out of jobs. So there's also that balance of when we offer a class, they have to take it here.
Oh, yeah, I'm merely saying, I'm merely suggesting that we, if we're going to have flexible pathways, make it, make the opportunities flexible as well. That's all.
Yeah. So I'm happy to bring that info from the last couple of years, kind of at the next board meeting, so we could have more eyes on it and more suggestions to make it more flexible, because I agree with you. And it drove me nuts when flexible pathways was a required graduation credit, because it's flexible yet required. So I am all for moving forward with that. And I know Kim is too, and she's great at this. So I will connect and bring you back some more information.
Okay, and really, truly, the reason that I'm asking it as part of the budget discussion is if you need more money for it, we should talk about putting it in the budget. Nancy, I see your hand and your cat's tail.
Yes, one of them. I would be very interested, Kate, to hear how many people on a ballpark figure need this, and how much does it cost? Does it depend on the class?
Kate, you're muted.
Sorry, I didn't realize that. No, it doesn't depend on the class. So it depends on licenses. So we buy so many seats at the beginning of the year, and then we could buy additional seats as we go along. It's never been a case, and Elizabeth might be right. Like, maybe we're just not. Maybe kids just don't know it's an opportunity, but we've always met the needs of our students. And we've always been fiscally responsible about it. So we've either fulfilled all the licenses that we bought seats for, and then bought a couple more, which is another couple $100. It's not a lot per student or a massive amount of money. We've always encouraged that dual enrollment credit to use those, right, first, because they're free. But it is something I want to say that last year we were actually able, because of the way we were using them and because that we were actually able to cut that budget a little because we worked with the company. We did a pilot last year. This is really a long conversation now. So it costs more to do it when we pay the company and say you also have to provide the teacher, right? So the teacher has to come along with the company. And I know, Bill, that you probably know a lot about this too. So the teacher has a company. My friend in Hartford District tested that out and kind of directed their kids how to interact with the teacher to see if it was worth that extra money to have to pay for the teacher out there. And they found that it wasn't. And they shared that kind of information, those results with us. So we went that option last year to not also pay for the teacher, which made it a lot more affordable, like half the price, something like that. But the same amount of students were able to take online classes. We just had to provide a teacher, which we were able to do now that we have that hub academic support center up and going in the high school.
Or if a student in 7th or 8th grade wanted to take a language other than Spanish, it'd be nice to be able to find a way for them to take whatever language they are interested in, just to explore it. I mean,
yeah, so we can look at that from both angles because middle school is not credit bearing, so that should be an easier fix, perhaps. I don't know, but we'll put it on. We'll make sure it gets on the report for next month.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I see your hand.
I was just going to comment on. So if you have an agreement where you don't have the teacher, does that mean that all of the classes that you offer to the students don't have a teacher? Or, for instance, if an 8th grader decided to take Chinese, I know you wouldn't have a teacher to teach Chinese, so you would be able to allow that student to take the Chinese class and have the teacher.
Yeah, Colleen, you can go before I talk.
I just wanted to add, we did learn a lot about those online courses during COVID. And one of the things that came out of those discussions was making sure we were offering just enough, a right fit for kids, like Kate had said, which an online course takes a special student, even more so at a middle school level. And one of the things that came out of those discussions with some of the team was kind of like a online prerequisite class to help kids get used to like how an online class works, how you turn things in, what the expectations are. So that's something we've talked about with Ms. Gogan. So it looks like we're both going to bring back some information for next time to see what's available for our middle school and high school students. But what we learned was that it was really hard to do those online courses during COVID, especially with our high school students who had the majority of them. And I imagine it would be pretty tough on your average middle school student to do that as well. So we will dive into it and try to find the best fit for kids.
Yeah, and Rebecca picked a perfect example because languages is the one where we're really hesitant to put kids online for, because even sorry, my daughter's like in the background here. Even with, we looked at that for an option for our French 3 students for this year, right? And we only had a handful, 2. And the response was the best part of class is conversing with your classmates in person. So we don't want an online class. And Chinese was the perfect example. We don't have the personnel to support that. So I don't know. We're happy to get all this information and look at what other options we can explore. I mean, if a kid, I will say it is the benefits of a small school, there's lots of them, right? So the benefits of a small school is really being able to meet each kid where they're at, and we really do consider each one individually. But I guess it would be nice to have like kind of broader, maybe some more opportunities, especially at the middle school.
And also, I would think, there's a difference between the COVID online instruction where everybody was at home with the full-on home distractions versus finding a quiet place at school where you could take a class. I don't know. But I would imagine that there would be, some variance in there.
There's also a difference between a high schooler taking it for credit bearing, to graduate, and a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader taking it as part of their passion project and doing it independently and reporting back, their teachers about their learning. So, do you
Bill?
want us to just include this can we just put this as a part of including an administrative report for October?
I already added it for next month.
You're the best.
Bill, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just want to thank Colleen and Kate for coming at this topic with a healthy amount of skepticism. Because there are real limitations to online classes. So thank you.
Okay, so moving on from the online classes, does anybody among us have this discussion is a philosophical discussion of our budget and what we would like to express through the budget this year. Davis, you have not said a single word this evening so far. I see you. Is there something that you feel we should be expressing through our budget this season?
I don't have anything particular. I'd be interested to hear what other folks would have to add.
Okay. Bill?
Oh, I have lots to add. First and foremost, I'm wondering philosophically if we're going to continue down the path that we took last year of really putting a considerable amount of money into staff and other programs for student staff support. As many counselors as we were able to hire and other support staff. I think the board took a really bold stand when it was laid out. Sort of the administration put up 3 different options, and we chose the most expensive option because of really a point in education where we're at. I mean, I would like to see that to continue the commitment the board made to moving forward with those supports for to help the recovery from COVID, which we all thought would start last year and really didn't, and hopefully it's going to start this year. I think that's one of the commitments we made last year, so I'm going to throw my support for that sort of philosophy going forward.
I agree with that, Bill. You said you had a whole roster of.
I do. I don't want to get too in depth now, but also, I brought up the whole the looking at the beginning of the day issue that we were going to get into this. I guess looking at things budget wise, one of my philosophies in education is meeting students at the beginning of the day when it's expected and where they're at, and having the staff available to be there at the beginning of the day. So the school day teacher interaction really can start at the very beginning of the day. 8 o'clock, that's which of course means that you have to have staff available to interact with students before that. So when students come in, there's staff available to make sure, one, that they have the time and the place and the supervision to eat breakfast when they get to school. To have the staff available so that if there's any issues, to meet students at the door if they need to be met at the door. Because there are students who get to school at, say, 20 of, and that student really needs one-on-one individuals to meet them at the door, bring them to a spot, and get their day off started right. So it's just I'm definitely not thinking about, my idea is not to allow parents to drop their kids off at 7:30 and then move on with the day. Basically, I want to make sure that the staff is available so that morning transition is as seamless as possible. And I think that's a philosophy in which may need some budget consideration.
In what way do you think it's a budget consideration?
Well, it's a budget consideration. So if we need to have staff available,
Right.
especially paraprofessional staff available earlier than 7:45.
Amy got her hand up as well.
It's also a contractual, you have to think about the negotiations for all of that as well.
Right. But at the same time, I think it's important for everyone to understand. I know the contract backwards and forwards. I have the thing pretty much memorized. So basically, the only time constraint within the budget for teaching staff is that their school day, their expectation for them to be in the building where they must be in the building, cannot exceed 7.5 hours. And that's across the SU. So that's the only constraint that is there. So working within that mode, well, actually, there is another constraint, which isn't really in the contract. It has to do with paraprofessionals and overtime. And that's just a consideration budget times in which if they exceed a 40-hour week, then we're legally obligated to pay them overtime. But so with those two constraints in mind, I think the reason I think this is a real budget issue is that, making sure that we have staff available that is needed at the beginning of the day when it is needed within those two constraints.
We could also consider it a stipend issue, create a teacher stipend for it? Can
No,
we address it in the budget that way?
no,
So
no,
Bill,
because as Amy pointed out, even if it's a stipend, we're still bound by the 7.5 hour workday. But not all staff are teaching staff. I think that's an important point to put out. Not all staff are under that contract. And so there are staff available. And even if we need to hire additional staff, there are staff with the flexibility to be able to work, to be at school before 7:45.
Yes, please do.
I think one of the, we have staff that, because support staff do not have the school day constraint of 7:45 to 3:15 is what we've defined. That we do have some staff that come in at 7:30 or 7:15 or even early to ride buses, and others that stay later. And the only constraint we have is they can't go over 8 hours in a day. That's where overtime kicks in. It's by day, not by week. Tina and I have gone over this several times because it comes up fairly frequently. We have discussed with the support staff that we would like to move everyone to a longer school day. It's come up several times this year. I will tell you exactly what we told support staff at our recent meeting, and we planned for a 3.5% increase this year when we planned our budget. We didn't plan for the amazing support staff new salary schedule, which ended up being 12.5%, which, do the math, that's 9% difference. So we decided this year was not the year we could make everybody who wanted to be like a 7.5-hour employee. We didn't have it. And we're hoping next year, so to tie into your budget discussion, Bill, next year that would be our goal, to be for those who want it. And we do have many staff that choose, because of what works for their schedule, to work 6 hours a day. We have a couple that work 6 hours a week, that we're still doing that. But, I think that everyone, support staff wise and teacher, being able to have more access to support staff skills and their ability to be more flexible because they don't have some other constraints that classroom teachers do, for example, to be available is out there. But it will take the financial planning. So if that kind of helps, I think we're all on the same page in this. So.
Right. So I think what us as a school board, if we're going to talk about this as a philosophy, meeting students where they're at first thing in the morning, I think it would be good for building administrators to basically to look at their day and look at their systems, look at their drop off, and through as this is the beginning of the budget process, just to consider what sort of staff would make the flow and the start of the day for students better, to make it a easier transition for them. And so as we prepare for the budget next year, if we get that, someone saying, hey, we really could use X, Y, and Z because A, B, and C, then we can then figure out what would that cost to make it happen. And then lay it out to what staff would be willing to do it, how could we accomplish that, and put that in the budget. And I know I believe that was Katie talking because that was her voice, but I couldn't see her, except to like this much of her face.
Who's here?
Yeah, next year's budget bump for parapay is not as significant as next year's isn't as significant as this year.
And we know it, so that'll help. We know that bump, so now we can plan accordingly with budget preparations.
Yeah.
Number, because that's been a little bit of a surprise to my budget. I will share, as someone who has most of the support staff, which worth every penny.
Now my question would be, Katie, my question, Katie, is why you were not aware of that. How did that information not flow to you, as I would feel it would be? You would be the most important person to know about that.
When was that contract ratified, Bill?
I could go back, but it was last year, not too late. I think it was, God, I really can't remember, but I don't think it was after. I don't think it was after.
I think it was after, so my budget for special ed is done, well, used to have to be by October 15th for the service plan. So I submit everything to the state based on that, and differently. So my budget would have been locked, done, and sent off for print.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just.
So I think definitely we need to consider that before it happens next time we do a round of negotiations, which luckily isn't going to be a while. Yeah. Okay, so that is definitely a problem the board should address, Katie.
Rebecca, I see that you had your hand up, but you have lowered it. Did you get your question answered, or do you have a comment?
Yes, my question was answered. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Uh, Does anybody else have any uh, what's that? Philosophical budget ideas? Bill?
Yes. There's been a significant transition into outdoor education. What sort of equipment might support training might both schools find useful to continue and build upon this transition to utilizing outside?
Excellent point, Bill. Thank you. I do think that's something that we should be taking into consideration. Yes.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to really thank Jennifer for organizing that cleanup day. Yeah, it was fun. You know, basically, I'm thankful for one of the younger men to step in before I had a complete coronary there running the chipper. I'm not as young as I used to be, but hey, we got a lot done, and it was a great piece of community building. So thank you, Jennifer.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have on our agenda the items for action. I don't think we have any items for action. So setting the next agenda.
I've got bus updates from Larry.
Bus updates. And also, I think this might be a supervisory union level thing, but I'd really love to know how old our Chromebooks are and whether they need to be taken.
I'll put that on Larry.
I think Larry, they get updated every, yeah.
Yeah, Larry has a replacement plan that is in. Yeah, he's got that pretty well covered. But I think it'd be a great idea, you know, if he's going to come in to talk about the buses sometime, to talk
Yeah,
about that as
just to
well.
let people know. I mean, I would say that our kids have the latest in technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Colleen?
Yeah, I was just going to repeat what Bill said. I think it's a 3-year rotation plan, and I think Mike Walker could also answer those questions for us.
Okay, thank you.
I would wonder, okay, and this may be a personal preference of mine. I'm wondering if there may be an administrative requirement, and I mean, I seem to be having issues with my network. I know administrators have Chromebooks as well. I'm wondering if any of you finds that limiting.
Well, Katie does.
I'm sitting here coveting my MacBook. So
I can't hear anything.
I said, Bill, I'm sitting here coveting my MacBook. Can you hear me? Bill?
Oh, it's gonna be his cover.
See, I mentioned MacBooks and it's all over. Yeah. See if he comes back. I will put the plug in too for tech. We've replaced 25 iPads in the past 2 years mostly it's for special education students who needed them for communication and talkers, plus putting them in use with students. And those are widely used even with really nice cases and everything else. So that we completely revamped. But in terms of, to answer Bill's question, so it can be reflected in the notes, I have found, because AOE requires everything on Microsoft Office now, that Chromebook, doing it on the Chromebook last year, I almost lost my squash marbles and everything else you can imagine with uploading everything in Microsoft
Oh,
Office
man.
version that doesn't really work well on a Chromebook with
Yeah,
the online version
yeah,
and with monitoring for
Yeah.
what the AOE requires.
yeah.
So that was how two of us now have, I didn't want an IBM clunky thing. I wanted a MacBook, and both of us have, Sabrina, the assistant director, the Microsoft Office suite on it.
Uh-huh.
So I do think that Chromebooks, with the way the AOE is, and we probably should check with Angie too, because she has to submit a lot. And I'm not sure they might actually have desktop computers. I know two of our administrative assistants can't function on Chromebooks either. They have to be on a Windows-based computer. So because of between Medicaid and all the state reporting. So it would be interesting. So I can just say from my end of it, for a lot of stuff we have to do for the state, it is limiting.
Doesn't bother me, but I have a husband who says, why don't you get a real computer?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, Bill's back. So, I mean, I've learned to adapt to it, but.
Did you hear most of that, Bill? I don't know when you came back.
I got a lot of it, but I mean, I know I couldn't survive with a Chromebook because of how the AOE functions.
That is exactly what she said.
I had to promise Larry it wasn't going to be a Mac takeover though, when he saw the order. But I could not, it was horrible last year,
Yeah,
with the documents.
I believe that.
The reality is that Macs don't play very well also.
It's web-based.
That's right. Yeah.
The rest
So-
of this stuff is not web-based.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that may tie in with the whole budgetary consideration.
Really love to hear it. We haven't heard a technology update anyway for a while about,
I think it's in our schedule,
okay.
but I'll double check that and let you know when that's happening.
I think Larry has the network fixed so that once I brought up Chromebooks, he blocked it. The system blocked it out.
Rebecca?
I think we wanted to also talk about extended learning opportunities for middle and high school.
And we also want to talk about the early child care, the ECE panel and film. And
Will you talk about that at the SU meeting,
Yep.
Elizabeth? Okay.
Yeah. I should have answers at the SU meeting.
Okay.
Gosh, that seems a little bit thin, but anyway, I think we're gonna have a couple of other things that get added on. I hope, knock wood, we'll have a couple of other things that get added on at the same time. So unless anybody else has something that they'd like to add to the agenda right now, I'm gonna leave it kind of here. Should we, Nancy?
When do we discuss our conversation with Sean?
Oh, the lawyer?
Yes.
We discussed that either in executive session, which we could have after this, or we wait for a next step from Sean.
Okay. Okay.
So, I think that is it for our future agenda, at least as it stands right now. So I will take a motion to. Oh, so do any of the board members feel that we need to have an executive session, a brief one?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
And that was Bill and Nancy.
Yep. And thank you. Very quickly running down the list. Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rebecca, how do you vote?
Aye.
Amy, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I am an aye.